It's like all you have to do is just get two pieces of wood, put them together, and then when you run the saw through, this will give you the edge that you need in order to cut whatever you're cutting in a straight line like a track saw. So in essence, and what we're doing is we are using two pieces of scrap wood that we've already had, screwing them, or not screwing them, but going to glue them and nail them together and create our own jig or our own little track saw that's basically free. It didn't cost us anything. My mother-in-law just got new carpeting in her bedroom, and the door is now too long. It rubs against the floor. So the door here is, I already taped it out. It was about 3/4 of an inch too tall. So I put some tape around the door, and we're going to trim it down.
Did that go the way you thought it was going to go? Nope.
So the blade is like perfectly fine. It'll cut all the way through, but we're adding almost 1.5 inches of height now, and the blade's not long enough. So we need to make a thinner so the whole blade can make a cut through in one complete pass. And so we're going to use a scrap piece of 1/2 inch plywood. And then rather than another 1/2 inch for the rail, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch luan. So in total width now, or depth, instead of having 1.5 inches, it'll only be 3/4 of an inch thick. That'll give us 3/4 of an inch more of cutting clearance on cutting the door, so we can cut the door in one pass. Another thing I want to test. I don't know if this will work. Hopefully it does. If it doesn't, then oh well. So this track saw that I built was designed to run the wider part of the saw on the left side of the fence. I figured it's better for more stability. What I want to do is do this saw, for one reason, that the piece that I have is not as thick as this piece, but what I want to try and do is run it so the fence is on the other side. Now this could be an epic fail because if it may not be as stable as this one, but if you start the piece a little bit off and you start get going, it should work, as long as you have adequate pressure. And the good thing is that this fence is very narrow. This fence I'm going to make wider. I'll have more space to be able to use for gripping pressure, I guess, as well as clamping pressure. So that's going to be the plan. I'll still save this for other projects because this one is longer than 4 feet, so it's great for going across, doing cross cuts on a piece of plywood. This one is not as long, and it's perfect because it does fit on the door. So what we did was we applied a little glue to the bottom of this board, attach it, and then using a nail gun, we nailed the two boards together, and we're going to let that glue dry for a little bit, and we'll trim it down. So now we have our board is all glued up and dry, and now we can cut the edge to make our mini track saw. So I'm going to use a piece of styrofoam. We're going to put this piece of wood on here, and we're going to take the circular saw and we're going to cut an edge right off, and that'll give us our straight edge for our next cuts. Better to clamp it so it doesn't slide all over the place. And that's why I wanted to make this board a little bit wider so I'd have more clamping room. I'm going to trim off the other end, but I'm going to keep this piece here. This one could act as a guide on the way in before it starts actually cutting the material. So now how this is going to work is we're going to take our new mini track saw here, and we're going to put it right on top of the line that we measured out before. And we're going to clamp it down, and we have more clamping area now that we have a bigger base for our fence. So right on the line. nice and straight. Still some wood left at the bottom of the door, so I didn't have to worry about refilling that in. So that jig worked out pretty well. So if I wasn't filming, the jig itself would have taken 5 minutes to make. It was very, very simple. But obviously with filming and stuff, it takes a little bit longer. So 5 minutes to build the jig, get a nice perfect cut on there with a couple pieces of scrap wood that was sitting around in the garage. And now I have a mini track saw that does a deeper cut than my old one that was 1.5 inch fence. A couple of things you could do to this thing to make it even better. One, I was trying to figure out how you can make a little groove down there so it'll kind of like sort of sawdust doesn't get stuck in there as you're running it through there. That I couldn't figure out how to do. Still trying to think how I might be able to do that. I mean, I could put it in through a table saw and just trim just a little bit, but not going to mess around with that. The other idea that I had, which I think would be great, is just to add a little paste wax. Paste wax to this, paste wax to the bottom of the circular saw, and guaranteed it will run even smoother than it just did. Looking at track saws online, because I would like to buy one eventually, but the one thing they all say is like the saws themselves are only as good as the blade. That is the original blade that came with this saw. So I am definitely gonna invest in getting a new blade for this thing. So between getting a new saw blade and putting some paste wax down on both the bottom edge of the saw as well as my new mini track saw, well, track saw track if you want to call it the track, that'll make this thing even better. And I will drill a hole in there and be able to hang it up somewhere so it'll be out of the way but somewhere accessible that I can get to when needed. All right, I am glad that door is done, and next step will be bringing it to my mother-in-law's house and installing it. Another feature to add to the mini track saw track is sandpaper at the bottom. Using double-sided tape, you can put sandpaper at the bottom and it'll help keep it from sliding around when you're trying to cut things. And that little layer of sandpaper will definitely help too in terms of keeping it from shifting around on you. I'd probably recommend using a higher grit of sandpaper, like maybe a 220, just so that you're not digging into the wood too much. Even maybe something even higher, maybe something in the 300 range, just to keep it from sliding, but at the same time not scratch up your piece of wood. And maybe you could build one in your garage too.